What's up, everybody? We are back for another episode of Power Hour. My name's Pastor Kyle.
I'm Pastor Ty.
And we are excited for this one. Pastor Ty, why don't you get us into it and tell us what we are talking about today?
Yeah, this is a topic that I am particularly passionate about more lately than anything. I've been reading a lot about it, trying to put a lot of things, but I want to talk a little bit about Sabbath and having margin in your life, and really talk about why as a society today are most people exhausted.
That's good.
I just want to start with a bold statement.
Yeah.
We don't need more time, can I tell you? We need healthier rhythms. We're not lazy. I think we're just not very intentional with our space, and it affects a lot more than I think we think it does. Because let me ask you, listeners, right now, do you feel tired even after a weekend? I mean,
Always.
I know I do. Do you live too connected? This is one where I really struggle with, is you're too reachable. People can contact you anytime. You feel like you need to immediately answer texts, immediately answer calls. I think even sometimes we can overschedule ourselves and not leave enough room to just be, you know what I mean? And that the pace of our life is just unsustainable.
It's true. You know, I look at Scripture, and ultimately we will always look at Jesus as the ultimate example for us. And I think it's interesting that the Bible explicitly records Jesus withdrawing to solitary places to pray. We actually have 9 different distinct times that he did so. However, Luke 5:16 notes that Jesus, and I quote, often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. So Jesus knew what was up.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it goes, I'd say even further back than that. You look at Genesis, like the first couple chapters of Genesis. God does the first 6 days, he creates everything. On the seventh day, he rests. God sets that example. And I think one of our issues is we think that rest is somehow bad, but it's actually a gift. Like it's something that God exemplifies because it's a gift for us. It's something that we need to recognize is not something evil. It's not something that makes us lazy, but it's something that God gives us to help us.
Yeah. Do you think as Americans, we tend to rest too much or not enough?
You know, I think it's funny. I think there's a huge pendulum between people and generations and not much in between.
Yeah.
I think there's people, and Pastor Kyle, I bet you're probably one of them like me, is like, man, I feel most comfortable right on the edge of burnout. It's like I'm not burnt out, but I'm right about there. You know what I mean? And that's where I feel comfortable. There's something weird about me that way. But I know other people that's like, man, step number 1, get up out of bed, and they feel like that's like the whole part of their day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've worked with people in the secular world and in Christian world that it's like, bro, you got to get up and do something. It's interesting, but I think it's interesting too because I think margin is something that not only can help you rest well, but can also make you a little more productive. Now, Pastor Kyle, you've known me long enough to know that I am like obsessed with productivity. I read about it. I watch videos on it. I listen to podcasts. Like, man, I tease people that if I wasn't a pastor, I'd probably be one of those productivity gurus. You know what I mean? I love that stuff. But I think that what I had to change my mindset on is that margin is actually connected directly with your productivity, and it's not an enemy of it. Because I think let me just define, because we're getting really far into this already. Let me just define margin a little bit. I think margin is a good definition I've read recently was space between your load and your limits. You know what I mean? The space between your load and your limits. It's that space where you don't feel like you have to do something immediately, that you don't have to get up right away, that you have time to rest, be creative, and in the Christian realm, have moments with God.
Yeah.
I think often even our problems seem bigger because we don't take time to rest. They seem huge. They seem emotional. They seem crazy. And how many times is it, like I laugh, you look at the story of Elijah. He has this huge spiritual moment. All the false prophets are proven false. They die. This woman comes up, I'm going to kill you. Elijah goes running for the hills. I'm never going to follow God again. I'm never going to serve you again. God, this is too much. And what's the first thing he does is he takes a nap and eats a snack, and then all of a sudden he feels way better.
Yeah.
And it's silly, but there's a spiritual concept to that margin really does make a difference.
It does.
And let me let me just give a few examples of I think where many of us could use margin. Here's a good one. This one hit me hard. Financial margin. Just having money left after you pay your bills. Having
Yep.
money left at the end of the month, not scraping by. Time margin, not scheduling every second of your life. Emotional margin. This one's good. Not carrying everybody's problems.
Yeah.
Pastors, we feel that a lot, but I think everyone does to some extent, right? Where you feel like you have to be there for everybody all the time. And cell phones, man, they're a blessing and they're a curse because,
Yeah.
man, I remember, I mean, we're relatively young, right? We're still in our 30s and everything, but I remember when all there was landlines and there were no cell phones, and someone called you and you answered and you didn't know who it was and everything, but nothing felt urgent or immediate.
Right.
Now you get a text every 2 seconds, right? You get a call all the time. You're constantly connected with social media. So having that emotional margin, and lastly,
Hmm.
spiritual margin, and you alluded to it. I want to give you a chance to talk on this a little bit, but spiritual margin, just having those moments away with God.
Yeah. I think the big thing, starting with talking about that margin. I mean, we as Americans, especially, we like to push everything right up to the limit, whether it's our finances, whether it's our energy. We feel like we need to go until we crash. We push really hard until we don't have any more energy. We spend and we use our resources until we're right at the cusp. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why credit cards are so prevalent, because we get to that point and then another thing always comes up,
Yep.
right? And we don't create important margins for us to give ourselves some space. I know for me, I early on in life, I would uh, just go absolutely crazy. And at one point, I was working for a church as a young adult pastor, and I remember my schedule looked like uh, a Sunday through Wednesday. I was working for the church, and I was working 25 to 30 hours during those 4 days for the church. And then I would work my quote day job on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I would work 12-hour days, at least, unless I had to stay late, um, at the Verizon store that I was working at.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sunday, you start all over. And my Sabbath was Sunday after church. My Sunday schedule would have me getting at the church at 5 a.m., setting everything up, and then I would leave right around 2:30, and then the rest of that day was my quote Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone constantly was talking about, like, oh, you got to worry about burnout. You got to worry about burnout. Um, it was one of the most challenging times of my life, because I had to get very intentional with the time I had off. Needed to be valuable time off. It couldn't just be like, oh, quote unquote time off, but I'm still doing a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
really had to allow myself to just stop when I was off. And luckily, that was just a season of my life. Because if I was to continue that, it wouldn't be sustainable. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it now, where I just didn't have any kind of time off. But I think for that season, it was necessary. And God gave me what I needed to get through that. But it's important to create those margins, to create time to spend with family. I think too often, we will set time aside, whether it's Fridays, whether it's Saturdays, Sundays, whatever it may be, but then we fill it up for the sake of having it filled up. And then we get to our Monday and we realize, oh man, that's weird. I just went through the weekend and I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
rested. And it's like, well, I wonder why.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where I felt it most is what I realized is what I considered my Sabbath or rest is I would just go and feel so exhausted that I would spend my half a day, 1 day off, whatever it was during whatever season, and all I'd want to do is sleep.
Yeah.
And I thought that meant like I'm working hard, I'm doing good. And I realized, man, I'm not resting. I'm just catching up on sleep. And
Mm-hmm.
and those are very distinct things. I felt a huge a huge conviction when I started to figure out is many of us, we think that rest is sleeping, sitting on the couch, lounging around, when I don't actually believe that's what rest is intended to be. Rest is slowing down and enjoying the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, me and you, we work with our brains a lot. We work with our minds a lot.
Yeah.
Resting for me has become working with my hands, doing things that I
Yeah.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets bad is I figured that out. And then like 5-6 years ago, I got really into photography and ended up making that another job. You know what I mean? I started making money, hustling, doing all things. Me and you, I think, both get it. We're part of that entrepreneur hustle culture, and it's easy to fall into. And I had to slow down, and so I stopped doing it because I was like, "Oh, I'm doing too much." And then with music, started trying to make money with it and stuff. And so I just stopped having hobbies and was like, "Hey, on my day off, I'm just going to do whatever." And even more recently, I had a friend say, "Man, you just need to do something that you're not the best at, that you're not making money at, but you just enjoy." And so for me, I've realized it's a constant reminder, and I think it needs to be for all of us, is that importance of Sabbath, of margin, of these things is, man, we've got to take the time to just enjoy the life that we're living.
Mm-hmm.
And if all we do is work, grind, next thing, man, we're not really taking those moments. I laugh how many times that we see people decline, coming to church because they're like, "Oh, I'm just too busy." Man, if you're too busy for church, if you're too busy to give an hour of your week to God, you're too busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think of like time with my family is like I've been guilty in seasons of go, and my family gets what's left over.
Yeah.
And it's not a margin for them. It's here. This is all I can give you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm always constantly finding this place in my life where, man, when you work that hard, I don't even have time to sit and think. So my ideas aren't even good because I haven't given my brain the room to come up with ideas, in the process to think. My sermons aren't good because I'm just rushing to get to the next one. You know what I mean? My interactions, my conversations with people aren't good because I'm not in a spot where I have the room to do it. When people are going through crisis, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not giving them what I wish I could because I have nothing left in the tank. And man, so many times it's like, I think we need to just slow down and have that room so that we can do that stuff.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's prioritizing. What we do on our time off, how we recover. For instance, I hear the same thing about church all the time. Like I'm too tired to go to church. I had a really busy Saturday. All these different things, and I know I'm coming at it as a pastor, but ultimately we're all children of God. We all should have a very similar outlook, which is what is more important, and what is more valuable to us than finding ourselves in the house of God. And now some of us, like myself, you included, we work on Sunday mornings. Like that's our job, is going to church, being the priest in the temple, if you will. But at the same point, every single service for me, I can find that 15-20 minutes worth of worship where in those moments, that's my Sabbath. That is my time to be able to receive. And if you're not needing to pastor a church in that way, like you should have a lot of other opportunities to be able to do it. I just hear it so often. It's like, man, I'm just too tired to go to church, or I can't afford to be able to put that time into it. I would just encourage you, like, man, I don't think you can afford not to. Because when you go to church, when you really give yourself that opportunity to worship God, to hear the word, I guarantee you will always come out more refreshed than when you came in. And that hour that you're going to spend at church is always going to be way more valuable than any other hour you're spending sleeping in, or lounging around the house, when you're probably just going to find like some tasks that you haven't done yet and end up doing that instead. Like church is one of those things that it is the best thing you could do to be able to just get revitalized, refreshed, and ready to go for the rest of the week.
Yeah. Now let me hit on two hot topics for me that aren't even really related, but I think they're important. Number one, doom scrolling. Man, I think of another reason that margin is important is if we're not careful, we spend our time off, our free moments,
Hours.
just scrolling.
Yep.
And it's like, man, I have a TikTok, I have an Instagram, I get it. I like videos, I like to send funny things. But man, even in those moments, we're not letting our thoughts go. We're not taking the
Yeah.
time to think or discuss or do anything. It's like, how often are we, with people, and you could tell that they're not interested in the conversation because they're just sitting there on their phone, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, man, did you even hear the last word I said? And it's another reason why it's like, I think this is important, is we need to give ourselves that space.
Yeah.
And if we're constantly letting entertainment be that thing that pulls us in and drags us in, I just don't feel like we're giving ourselves enough room to let God speak, to have a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with people. I don't know. It's just it's a passion of mine that, man, I'm not anti-internet. I'm not anti-entertainment, but what I am anti is not leaving room in your life for relationship
Right.
with God, relationship for your family, with your friends, all those things. The other side, and this is a funny one to talk about because this isn't really one that I struggle with. Maybe I don't think you would either, Pastor Kyle, but you would agree that generationally, our generation, even younger ones, really struggle with this, and that's being lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I laugh at how many like 19, 20-year-olds I see obsessed with Sabbath when it's like, bro, you don't get a Sabbath if you don't work. You got to have a job before you get a
Like,
break. Like, it's just wild. And I think margin's another thing that can help there is, man, if every day, all day is relaxed time, you're not
yeah.
going to enjoy your relaxing time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If every day is, oh, whatever, I'll get up when I want and do what I want, and there's no structure and there's no purpose, man, you're not going to find a Sabbath because you're quote unquote resting so much that you don't even get to enjoy your rest.
Yeah.
And so I think margin's important too, because then margin helps you recognize when you should be working and when you should be resting, when you should
Mm-hmm.
have your hands to the plow and when you should be taking a break and sitting on your porch drinking some sweet tea. Come on.
Yeah.
But I think that margin and Sabbath help direct you too, because then you're realizing, oh man, if I get one day to rest, there should be 6 days that I'm at work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And obviously, like some of us work 4 days a week, we work 10-hour shifts, or some of us work, you said you had a season where you're working 3 12s or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is, like, even if you're at home, man, take one of those days and do chores around the house, do
Right.
whatever. But you all rest is not the answer either.
Right.
I was just talking with someone about this yesterday and how crazy it is that you see people that when they retire too early. I don't know if people here have probably not heard of the FIRE movement, but there's this movement in the millennial generation to retire at the age of like 35. Like,
Yeah.
don't spend any money, retire. And they find that eventually those people go back to work because they get so bored.
Mm-hmm.
You find people that retire early, let's say in their early 60s or whatever, will pass away soon because they just stop moving and they get bored.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the great things about Sabbath and margin is it also helps you to remind you that you need to stay active and stay busy. Man, you don't need to work maybe a full-time job anymore, but you should still have a purpose to your life. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
your chance to volunteer, make time with friends, go exercise, but keep a routine.
Yeah.
You can't rest all the time because then rest is not rest, it's a curse. And so I think that's where margin and Sabbath really work both ways, where it reminds you when you're young and you're passionate and you're ready to go for it, that hey, have some margin, leave yourself
Mm-hmm.
from some room to connect with God and connect with people. When you're on the other side of life and you know things are slowing down and maybe you're feeling like there's not enough to do, that you're reminded that, man, I don't want to over rest. You know what I mean? I want to have
Yeah.
a purpose in my life. And so um, I just encourage you, wherever you are on that pendulum, whether you're young and lazy, whether you're old and retired, or you're right there in the middle and working hard, that margin, Sabbath are, man, great rhythms that can really be a blessing to your
Yeah.
life.
I think there's nothing more rewarding than a Sabbath that's following a very effective and productive
Mm-hmm.
week.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so easy for a lot of us to get caught up with this. We work really hard because we're busy,
Mm-hmm.
versus we deserve the Sabbath because we work really hard, but in reality, we're actually producing something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important. Like, I think people they want to look busy. They want to feel busy. Like, oh, I went 12 hours and I just never stopped. I never had a chance to sit down. And it's like, well, what did you accomplish?
Yeah.
And it was like, you look back and you're
Well,
like, well, I didn't accomplish
because we
very
feel like
much.
busyness makes us feel important, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's wild.
But there's nothing like a Sabbath when you're like, man, I can look at what I did and be like, that was really, really effective. Like for me, I found that I don't work really, really well by going like 8 to 10 hour stretches. I do really good by going 3 to 4 stretches. So if you give me like 3 to 4 hours in the morning, then I take about 2 hours where I'm either reading a book, going for a walk, whatever it might be, even playing a video game once in a while. And then I sit back down and I do another 3 to 4 hours. I will be way more productive during those two sessions than I would if I tried to just be like head down and just power through it. And then it makes the Sabbath that night, because like you should take time at every night to be able to rest as well. So much more rewarding, because it's like I can look back and be like, wow, that's why it got done.
Well, and I wonder sometimes if we get stuck in the trap of busyness because we never actually give our life and brain enough space to realize that what we're doing isn't effective.
Yeah.
Me and you use the term ROI so much, return on investment. And even today I was teasing you because you're telling me, man, I need to learn how to do this and this and this better. And I was like, bro, what's the ROI on that? How's that going to actually give you a good return?
Yeah.
And I think that if we get so caught up in this space where we're doing, we're not actually slowing down to ask ourselves, are we doing the right things? You know what I mean? The fruitful things. I think for me too, Sabbath and margin remind me and humble me, because I'm like, man, I'm not God. God's God.
Yeah.
And I can work all day, every day, and I'm still not going to solve all the problems of the world. And when I take a day off, that's me saying, God, I've done all that I can, but I'm going to trust you that you don't need me. You know what I mean? I'm not the answer to everyone's problem. And so it's always a great reminder that on those days where I'm like, nope, I'm turning my phone off. Nope, I'm not going to return that text right now. I'm not going to call them right back. I'm going to take a day devoted to resting and being with my family and doing the things that I enjoy and not feeling guilty about it, because I'm not God.
Yeah.
I'm not Jesus. Man, I'm limited. Now, I have a high capacity. I don't say that arrogantly, but man, I can go for it when I go for it. But guess what? One day, I'm not going to be here anymore.
Yeah.
One day, I'm not going to be the lead pastor of Powerhouse. One day, I'm not going to be, the whatever it is, whatever season I find myself. And I think there's a humility to that, to knowing that, man, I'm going to be faithful with what God gives me in the season that I have. But I'm going to remember that that's all it is a season that I have. And that when I take rest, it's okay, because the world's not going to fall apart just because Ty Hayes goes on a hike with his family, takes a picture of a elk out in the mountains, you know what I mean? Rides his dirt bike in the hills. Like
what you're saying is I'm allowed to put my phone on do not disturb once in a while.
You can quote me on that. I want that to be everyone's background banner. Make sure you post it all over the place. But yeah, that's what I'm saying is, guys, we have to get to the place where we remember that the world isn't going to fall apart just because we're not in it. It's going to be okay. God's God. We are not.
That's right. So Pastor Ty, tell me, how can we, as listeners, take an examination, get a good look at our life and figure out like, okay, are we doing a good job? Is there places that we might need to work harder? Maybe we need to create more margin. Like, what can we do? What's some practical steps for us moving forward?
Yeah. So I like to keep things very simple. I'd say one of the best ways to do is you look at your week, because that's what was set up to us in advance. You look at your week and you say, man, if I should be working hard for 6 and taking 1 off, what day is actually my day off?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking like you work 5 days, you have 2 days off. I'm saying even in those 2 days off, one of those days, you're welcome to do chores around the house. You're welcome to make things happen, shopping, do whatever. Kids. But one of those days you need to say, I'm not doing any of that stuff. Yeah. I'm going to do what I enjoy. And there's a cost to boundaries. So maybe you tell your kids like, hey man, we're not doing that sporting game today. We're not doing, you know what I mean? Yeah. We're going to do things that we enjoy, and we're not going to be tied down to anything.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's step number 1. Step number 2 is I'd look at your life and your schedule on each day and say, man, where am I leaving time for my family? Where am I leaving time just to think? Where am I leaving time to to get enough sleep, to eat healthy, to get enough exercise, excuse me, to do the things that that we want to do, that we have time to do, but we just got to structure it a little differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that examinations, I'm very practical in that way. I don't want to give you some foo-foo advice, but I'd start with that 1 day a week Sabbath, and then I would look at those areas of life we talked about, your schedule, like where can I make room in this, your finances, man. If you don't have a budget,
yeah.
Me and my wife are big Dave Ramsey people, and one of the quotes he says that I just love is, if you don't tell your money where to go, your money's going to tell you where it's already gone. You know what I mean? And so, man, set up a budget. Set up a budget with margin. A lot of people tell us, I can't afford to give to the church. It's like, can you not afford to give to the church, or are you not budgeting and having margin? You know what I mean? Do you put a certain amount in your savings account each month? Because if you're not, you should. You know what I mean? With your phone, man, you should have times during the day where you don't feel like you have to answer every call or return every text. Keep your phone on do not disturb till you get to work. You know what I mean? Turn your phone on do not disturb by 7 p.m. when it's time for you and your wife to put the kids to bed and hang out. You know what I mean? But I think the most important thing is just, this is as much as this is a spiritual principle, as much as this is a good philosophy of life, this is also just a very practical thing.
Yeah, it is.
Don't overthink it. Just say, man, if I've got this much, where am I leaving space? Where am I leaving those boundaries? So do that with your finances. Do that with your schedule. Do that with your spiritual life. Make sure you have time for prayer, for reading the Bible, doing all those things. But man, do it yesterday. Do it today. You know what I mean? Do all the things. So
yeah, I would just encourage people. What's helped me through even my busier seasons, Pastor Ty kind of referenced it, was put everything on the calendar. And I mean absolutely everything on the calendar. If you are going to relax, put it on the calendar. If you have to run an errand, put it on the calendar. Too often we put only the big things on the calendar, and then we look back and we're like, what did we do with our day? It's kind of like budgeting. You want to put every single thing, including savings, fund spending, everything on the budget. You want to do the same thing on the calendar. Like, you should one of these days ask me if you see me in person, and I'll show you my calendar. And it is full of nothing but to-do lists and just one event after another. My day-to-day is blocked off to the minute sometimes. It is absolutely insane. And some people would look at that and be like, that's overwhelming. I can't do that. But as you start getting into certain habits, you're able to take something that was once overwhelming, and all of a sudden it becomes a lot more doable. Like, put on there time with your kids, time with your wife or your husband, time with God, especially. Like, put him on the calendar. I'm not saying like that's the only time you can spend time with him. The Bible talks about having prayer and worship continuously throughout the day. But at the same point, when you're going to sit down and study the word and spend time just between you and him, put that on the calendar so you have that blocked off, so it can't get filled up by something that honestly is less important. And I think you'll find that you are able to start creating a lot more time for yourselves, because you're not just going throughout the week aimlessly. You actually have a plan.
That's very good. I love that.
Well, Pastor Ty, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for bringing the topic. Thank you for just spending some time and getting into something that we might not think about as much. Having that time for Sabbath, creating the margins, it's super important.
I agree. And speaking of which, man, get off this podcast, put down your phone, go enjoy a nice walk.
That's right. Amen. Well, we love you guys. You guys have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next time.